If you clicked on this video, you're probably like me. You saw all the promotional material for Starfield, and you've been on the fence. Maybe you've been feeling burnt out by Bethesda games, maybe you're wary after what happened with Fallout 76. Bottom line is, you're not ready to pay $70 for a game unless you're sure it's what you want. Well, that's where I come in. I've played 40 hours of Starfield at the time of writing, with the intent of streaming it on my Twitch and sharing my first impressions with the public to help you make your decision. Now, if I haven't already lost you just because I'm a VTuber, let me give you a rundown of my experience and a few tips for getting started. Character creation. I've never been great at making characters, but this time in particular felt bad. I don't know, maybe it's the lack of music in the creation screen or something? Some people have made some really great characters, so I'm chalking that up to my own lack of skill. The real meat for me is the traits and the backgrounds. Aside from giving you a free point in 3 skills, the backgrounds can give you unique dialogue choices. I can't say I recall anything super meaningful or impactful. I don't think I've skipped over a persuasion check with one yet, but it's some nice flavor. Traits are a fun bag of take a boon with a catch, a dream home with a mortgage, or living parents that you send money to every in-game week. And, of course... Oh no! Oh no! Oh no, he found me!
Is it you? Is it really you?
Overall, I'm happy with it. Really could have used more hairstyles though. This is one of like 3 long hairstyles for men. Stats and skills. Stats are like this. You got health, you got O2 as a stand-in for stamina, you got resistances to physical, energy, and particle damage, and you've got resistances to environmental hazards like radiation and extreme temperatures. Stamina is interesting. Once you use up all of your O2, you start to fill up the bar with CO2. Once that's full, you start taking health damage. Kind of a neat management thing there. It also acts as a compromise for being over-encumbered. In other Bethesda games, if you were carrying too much, you'd either get glued to the spot or forced to walk super slowly. Now, you can move at a normal speed and even sprint, but it costs more O2. You still can't fast travel while over-encumbered, but this at least allows you to move around and get back to your ship without having to crawl there like a snail. Skills blend a bit of Skyrim's use it to make it better mentality, and Fallout's dump your points in what you want mentality. When you spend a skill point, you get a rank in that skill. In order to rank it up again, you need to fulfill a challenge and then put another skill point into it. So, for security, you need to pick locks. For weapons, you need to kill enemies with those weapons, and so on. Oh, and some skills are practically essential and really shouldn't be gated behind that starting point. I highly suggest you pump a pack into boost packs and targeting systems as soon as you can. You can't use your boost pack at all without 1 point in it, and you can't target specific systems on an enemy ship without targeting systems. Lockpicking is a good early grab too. You're prevented from challenging high-level locks without enough points in security. On that note, let me mention lockpicking real quick. Computer hacking and lockpicking use the same minigame. Line up these ticks with the gaps in these rings. It's a puzzle. It's okay. A bit annoying after a while since it takes longer than other similar games, but it's fine. Harder locks have more rings. You use up a lockpick when you start the game, then use another lockpick anytime you undo one of your moves. These ticks can fit into the rings in multiple arrangements, and using up a tick you needed for a different ring can trap you and force you to go back and try again. I'll mention the persuasion game too. Persuasion isn't a random chance dice roll, nor is it a speech wheel like in Oblivion. You have an actual conversation with unique dialogue lines. You have a certain number of turns to earn a certain number of points. Each choice is worth a different number of points, but has a different probability of failure. Once you run out of turns, you're allowed to keep going as long as you keep making choices that succeed. It's nice, honestly. A good blend of stat checking, chance, and skill. Calculated risks, or something like that. I like it. The story. I haven't gotten too deep into any of the game's stories at this point. I mean, that's kind of how Bethesda games go, right? Head to a main quest objective, get sidetracked by 20 other things. What I've seen so far is fine. There's a weird series of artifacts that glow and float when they get near each other, but we don't know much more than that. The opening has you dig one up, you meet the main cast, the leader takes you on a hunt for the next artifact. She's a bit insufferable if you're playing a morally gray character, but whatever. Honestly, all the Constellation people I've met so far have been really nice. To a fault. Like, there's no grit or grime to them. Even the CEO got written with a charitable heart of gold. Ugh. I'm hoping there's some more complex, less perfect companions later on. Someone with some downsides, some bad history or something. Or maybe one of these guys will open up and reveal some depth. Factions are where the interesting stuff usually is, right? Thieves Guild, Brotherhood of Steel, that kind of thing. So far, I've found 3 factions. The 2 government factions, the United Colonies and the Freestar Collective, and the Crimson Fleet, the pirate faction. I haven't started either of the government factions, but UC is your utopic, military-heavy faction. Freestar seems like space cowboys, from what I can tell. The one faction that I have started is the Crimson Fleet, the pirates. But there's a catch. You start the quest line by getting caught committing a crime in UC territory. You get brought in and recruited as a plant in the Crimson Fleet by this guy. So you work your way into the fleet, and my plan was to double-cross the UC and become a proper, real member of the Crimson Fleet. We haven't gotten to a double-cross point yet, but I don't know. I'm worried. Because after my first real mission with the fleet, I was forced to report back to UC to debrief, and had no options to lie about the very important intel I gathered. No option to back out of the deal with the UC, and no ability to mislead or misinform them. It's given me a really, really bad feeling. I really, truly hope I'm not forced to side with the UC at the end of this quest line. I want to be king of the pirates, goddammit! Hell, the whole point of the story seems like it's gonna be to track down the Founder's legacy, a massive hoard of credits on a crashed bank freighter. It really feels like a One Piece inspired story. So I'm hoping there'll be some One Piece inspired Navy smacking. Combat. Combat's solid. Honestly, not a lot of complaints. Zero-G combat feels a bit weird at first, but it's pretty good. I decided to try leaning into unarmed since that's back as a skill, and it feels underwhelming. Like I can't out DPS a bunch of guys at once. Like I need to spec into at least one kind of gun on top of my fists, which kinda sucks, but, well, it's fair, I guess. It's a setting with a lot of high-tech guns. Fists aren't exactly a weapon of choice in the future, I suppose. Shoot a bunch of guys, finish the stragglers with my fists. I guess. Space combat is... God, it's so close to being good, actually. My biggest gripes are 1, time doesn't pause or slow down when you're fiddling with ship power. FTL had a pause button for a reason, you know. It's really hard to fly your ship when you literally have to take one hand off of the flight controls to mess with your power levels. 2, even on normal difficulty, enemy ships have flawless aim. If I'm flying perpendicular to your ship at max speed, at least some of those shots should miss. If you're in a fight with 2 or more ships, you're at an extreme disadvantage. Any damage will reset the timer on your shield regeneration, so even if you get behind one ship, any others will still be able to fire on you. If they can just balance that out a little bit better, ship combat will feel a lot less unfair when it's 1 against 2 or 3, which it often is. Speaking of ships, ship customization. Pretty good, honestly. Lots of stuff you can smack onto your ship, but it all snaps together like Legos, so it feels like a nice blend of the freedom to make what you want without being overwhelmingly complex. Tack on more engines or shields, add some new weapons, that sort of thing. Oh, and because it's probably the first thing you'll want to upgrade, your grav drive determines the length you can jump, and your fuel determines how far you can travel total. In other words, you need a better drive to cross a single long gap between 2 stars. More fuel means you can make more jumps without stopping, which is a convenience on top of helping you avoid making a stop in a dangerous system. I haven't really been able to do much with base building. It seems like there's a lot going on here. You can link your bases together to share resources between them and manufacture stuff, but I haven't had enough materials to build a single fully functional base yet. Seems neat. You can set up big industrial bases that generate rare materials, or you can make a house on a nice planet. Seems like there's some good options here, I just haven't had the aluminum to play with them yet. On that note, let's talk about items, resources, and gear. Armor is divided into 4 slots: your clothes, your suit, your helmet, and your pack. Your boost pack isn't a proper jetpack like you might think, it's more like a double, triple, or quadruple jump. Oh, and again, you need a skill point in boost packs to use it at all. Recommend you grab that early. Guns come in a whole massive load of flavors and ammo types. I struggled to find the balance between having enough backup options in case a favorite of mine ran out of ammo and carrying one weapon of every ammo type. Don't do that second thing, you'll get weighed down. All gear also has a possibility of being rare or epic or legendary. These pieces will have special modifiers, like taking or dealing more damage to human enemies, or dealing more damage when you wear less armor, that sort of stuff. Resources are everywhere, and they're heavy. Stuff them in your ship's cargo, and you have access to them at crafting benches and when building outposts. Just be aware your ship can only carry so much. I kinda wish there were more storage options, or that the resources in the infinite capacity safe at Constellation could actually be accessed when using Constellation's crafting benches. Credits are the currency, and you'll get a lot of them. You'll make some selling gear and guns you pick off corpses, and the major cities have this really convenient kiosk that'll let you sell most of your junk right next to your ship. Stolen goods can be sold at actual trade authority offices, as can contraband. Yeah, you can find illegal goods marked with this yellow tick, which will get you in trouble if you get scanned with them on board. You'll make a fair bit from quests and from taking missions off the bounty boards. Bounty board missions, as far as I can tell, are Radiant quests. Kill the raider at this planet, scan the wildlife on that planet, hunt down the pirate ship in this system, that sort of thing. Good money, just not super interesting. Which brings us to the final mark: exploration. Oh boy, it's a really mixed bag. So, the pre-made places to explore look really nice, and there's usually something to find. A chest with some credits, a rare or legendary gun, something like that. Quest locations, cities, these are all really nice, and there's clearly care put into their design. There's secrets, lit if you search off the beaten path, all that good stuff. It's good. Although, the map always sucks. You get a surface map for every planet, but it's always this terrain point cloud thing. Even for a major city like New Atlantis. I understand using these for all those barren, low-density planets, but not giving us a proper city or dungeon map is really annoying. It's really hard to find a specific store you want or a location within a city when it doesn't tell you where all the shops and buildings are. I wandered New Atlantis for over an hour trying to find a store for a quest that didn't have a quest marker. Which, I mean, that's great! A quest that relies on you searching on your own is great! But not when you need to go to a specific store that you can't even see on your map! Moving on from the heavily designed areas, if you just jump to a planet and land in the middle somewhere, the procedural generation becomes obvious. You can scan resources, plants, and animals to contribute to a total planet scan. You get XP for completing them, but I don't recommend going out of your way to do this. It's very tedious. You need 8 scans per plant or animal to complete the scan for that creature, and on planets with a lot of life, it's a chore. You can also discover planetary traits that generated unknown areas, so hike across this big planet to maybe find a trait and get some XP, or to fulfill a exploration bounty. It's not a lot of fun after the first couple times. I'm not fussed that you can't walk all the way around a planet. I didn't really expect that, and the novelty would have worn off after the first time anyway. Honestly, just stick to landmarks if you want to explore. You're more likely to find something interesting that way. Outer space exploration is nearly non-existent. You can't fly between planets, you have to jump to them. You're cordoned off to this little pocket of space on one side of the planet. You can't even fly around to the other side of it. So just jump, maybe you'll find a randomly generated cargo ship or some pirates, but that's about it. Star yards and derelicts are usually marked on your map for you to jump to. Overall, dungeon exploration, for lack of a better term, is dull. Exploring the dungeons in Starfield is just all the same. I think it's a side effect of Starfield's setting. It's realistic and grounded to its detriment. In Fallout, a dungeon could be an abandoned city, a vault, a cave, a sewer, a bunker. Elder Scrolls had caves ranging from wildlife dens to necromancer hideouts. It had crypts and temples and magical ancient ruins. Now, I know if you've seen one Draugr crypt, you've seen them all, but there was at least a semblance of variety. In Starfield, they all feel the same. It's hard to tell the inside of a derelict ship from an abandoned research outpost or a bounty hunter den. And even then, there's not much interesting or weird or wild to find in the data terminals. There's no whimsy, no messed up Vault-Tec experiments to read about, no journals left behind by a perverted necromancer. It's always just, we are researching xenobiology on this planet. We saw a Crimson Fleet ship the other day. Hope nothing bad happens. It's all just very dull. To me, at least. Maybe this appeals to you, but for me, I want something to discover, to learn, a tiny sliver of a story to find, and Starfield just never seems to deliver. Bugs. I haven't hit on many. A somewhat stable launch for a Bethesda game. I mean, I hit on some bugs. I exited a ship and it spit me out underneath the ship and trapped me. Some animation and collision issues. And this one guy that was invisible. That's it though. No tidal wave of glitches. Alright, I've rambled on long enough. Final thoughts? It's a decent game with a strong framework. I honestly think the modding scene is going to be what finishes this game. As sad as that is to say. But I guess that's every Bethesda game. The modders put in all the stuff we really want, and this time they've got a really strong framework to work with. There's some good, some bad, and a whole lot of meh. If you're still on the fence after all I've said, I'd recommend just holding out until some mods get made. Otherwise, go with your heart. I won't give it a numerical score. My feelings are a bit too mixed to nail down every aspect of this game in a single number. If you like what you see, if the things you care about are all here, get the game. If not, either wait for a sale or just spend your money on something you think will make you happier. Sorry to kind of flake out on a definitive review, but I think this game will really appeal to some people while seriously disappointing others. It's a huge matter of personal preference, more so than other games, I feel. But I think I'll keep playing it for now. See where some of these stories go, see what else there is to find. There's a third major city I've heard about but haven't reached yet. Neon, a pleasure city run by gangs. Sounds like my kind of vibe, honestly. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing and leaving a like. And if you'd like to watch my live streams, I linked my Twitch in the description. Take care.